Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirsty Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts. Welcome back to The World Awaits. How are you all?
Hi everyone, how was your week, Belle?
I'm busy planning for my next trip. I'm off to Greece and Bulgaria.
And just back from Vietnam already, and jet setting off again. What life?
Oh, no, Kirsty, a lot of work goes into these trips. I mean, that's our job, right? But this is a bit of a tight turnaround for me. So I am neck deep in research. So, it is a research trip. So we go with a completely different lens to if you were on holiday. And I'm flying solo on this one, at least for the first couple of days.
Well, yeah, so true. When you travel for work, you're always looking for the angle. So, and looking for great people to quote. So people, if you're ever on a tour or an experience and the travel writer is there, be warned, they might just use what you say as Have you done that before? I have actually done that before.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You don't name them, but you do, so people say great things that just make for a great story. If it's a tour guide, obviously I quote them, but yeah.
Yeah. I have had people write back and say, I know that was me that you referred to. Sometimes, I was traveling. I was in Macedonia, North Macedonia, and there was a guy on this, and I was in an actual public trip with Intrepid, like I was joining a regular trip, and I had a guy with a really thick Brooklyn accent, and he was so funny because he would just talk about the coffee every morning. The coffee in this place is terrible, and I just, of course, I took it because it was such good sounds, but. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so be warned. But I just had a couple of wins this week I thought I'd share with you. If you are an architecture perv, which I am, my hot list of 10 great architecture openings coming up in 24-25 is now out on the Sydney Morning Herald and the Age's website. And I have to say, if you do like your building design, you need to book a ticket to Osaka in Japan next year for the World Expo. They're already releasing some of the pavilion design. So each country that participates builds a pavilion. And now it's just a competition for the best architect, not necessarily from your country either. So they've been releasing some of the pavilion designs and they are crazy. There's giant bubbles and Australia's is modelled on a gum nut, darling old gum nut, which is very Aussie kind of thing. But there's some spectacular designs coming up. So I will put the link in the show notes for that one. And my other story is much delayed. Do you remember, Kirsty, when I did that walk from from Falls Creek to Hotham up in the Victorian?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, 40 kilometres, 2 days. The other 3 people on the walk with me were 3 very tall, fit blokes. So that was interesting. I was literally a foot shorter than them. And, that means my legs are like a foot shorter. So I'm toddling along with the pack. That story is now the cover in the Canberra Times and the Newcastle Herald. So if you want to get a sense of it is a fantastic trip. I did it as a supported hike with Alpine Nature Experiences. And the last night the places to sleep were incredible. I slept in a tent that was suspended between 2 trees.
Yeah, and I love that photo.
Yeah, gorgeous. And they've used it in the story. Insta. It's on my Insta. It's in the story. And in a bubble and in a geodesic bubble up on the Dargo High Plain. So fabulous, amazing food, great hiking. I mean, it's not all been handed to you on a plate. You've still got to work your chops off. So that's been my week. What about your week, Kirsty?
Yes, it's been head down this week, to be honest, and I had a couple of stories that might be of interest out. So one was in the New Zealand Herald. I went up to Sunshine Coast actually for Creative Plate, which we did mention earlier, and my story came out because I did a piece about a former All Black who's actually opened a wine bar. Him and his partner have opened this little wine bar called Casita, and it's just gorgeous. It's like being a little slice of Spain and the Sunshine Coast. It's the only wine bar in the Sunshine Coast, and
really,
so yes, and it's such a gorgeous little space. His partner Kate has got an interior design background, and she's done an incredible job. So if you want to go, if you're that way, then go and check out the wine bar, and you can see it on that story on New Zealand Herald, and we can put a link to the show notes too. And also I I interviewed this fascinating woman called Melita Kulnandis for Carry On Luxury, who's the pioneer of sustainable travel in southern Cambodia, and she's the CEO of this beautiful resort called Song Sa. And she's got such a great story. So she bought an island. So she was traveling around Cambodia with her boyfriend, and she saw these islands on the horizon and was like, I need to get to them. So she got this fisherman to take her out to these islands, which took at the time like more than 5 hours because she was in a little putt-putt, sort of fishing boat. And went out to these islands, and she was exploring the islands. And on the way back, they stopped in at a smaller island, and she was talking to the local fisherman, and he was saying, that unfortunately the area has been completely overfished, and it used to be really populated with marine life, and how he's sick of it all, and he wanted to go back to the mainland. And he said, do you want to buy my island? And she said, yeah, why not? How much? And he said $15,000 US. So she said, okay. So she went back to the mainland, got him the money in a brown paper bag. This was 2005. Took the money back to the mainland, gave him the money, and off he went to the mainland, and she stayed on the island. And then she started literally cleaning up this island. So the island had been completely logged. As I said before, the marine life were just completely depleted. So she transformed this island. She let all the people that were living there stay there. There was a community that had just started living there, and she let them all stay there, and they started cleaning up this island. And anyway, eventually, after over some time, she literally was responsible for creating Cambodia's first protected marine park, along with chiefs of the local village. They were responsible for starting that. So, and such a great story. Like, I love stories like that. And she's just transformed the area, and now has this incredible. And then after a while, she decided to build Song Sa. So it was, it came afterwards in consultation with the community. So have a read of that, and we'll put that in the show notes for anyone that loves stories about, people doing remarkable things to create destinations for us that we then get to enjoy as travellers. So, and
that's amazing. Great story.
Yeah, remarkable story. Remarkable woman, remarkable story. And we also both went to a lunch with Mandarin Oriental to hear about the hotel group's latest news. And if you love very high level luxury and wellness when you travel, then have a listen, because there's lots of new hotels in the pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because love a good lunch, we do. So the group's now got 40 hotels, 12 residences, and 23 exclusive homes in 26 countries and territories. I didn't know that. That includes recent openings in London, which has been everybody's been waiting for. It is the new Mandarin Oriental in Mayfair, and the Mandarin Oriental in Muscat, which is the capital of Oman. And I missed it by 2 weeks. Anyway, I'll have to go back. And they've also got properties coming up in Rome, in Bali, in London Bankside, in Athens, and in Sardinia. So I'm super fortunate to be staying in the New Greek property, which is 3 hours southwest of Athens on the Peloponnesian Peninsula. So clearly I'm going to have to pack my copy of Thucydides before I go, because Peloponnese, right? It's going to be amazing. And I did actually cover it before it opened. I wrote about it before it opened because of the way that they'd buried they'd sort of used earth to insulate each of the villas, the private villas that are there. So it's got a big sustainability program. So I'm going down to Costa Navarino to check that out, and I'm going to report back for you.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. What an incredible property. And as well as having a strong ethos on traditional luxury, there was also another story that we were told at the lunch by Nick Seavright from Mandarin's Oriental's London property. And he was telling us about how, this is another really cool story about someone in travel being innovative, right? So they were talking to the chef who's Chilean, and he was saying, and they had this spare space that they didn't know what to do with. And they were saying to him, hey, why don't we do a bit of a pop-up? And they said, what would you like to do? And he said, we could do, a contemporary twist on English food. And they were looking at his face, and they could just see that he was just not passionate about it. And I mean, he was obviously all up for it, but it wasn't something he was, ultimately passionate about. So they said to him, but hang on, we can just see it doesn't sort of fire you up. Like, what do you really want to do? And he said, I'd love to make the dishes that my mother and grandmother made. and do something along those lines. But obviously it wouldn't be suited because they're in London. And they were like, what do you mean? Let's just do it. So they've got this new Latin American pop-up, and I just thought, what a great story. Like, they listened to their staff, they're utilising the experience they've got, and creating this new restaurant, which is obviously something that he's passionate about, but it's also his heritage. And therefore, because of that, often these sorts of things, that's why they're so successful. So he was saying it's just been a really big success. So I just love that. I love that too. So if you're ever there in the London property, go and check out that. I don't know how long it's going to be up for, but go and check out what innovative things they're doing in the culinary space.
If you can. Apparently it's the hottest place in town and you've got to fight for a ticket. So, but yeah, thinking out of the square and using your staff is totally a winner. So this week we have a bit of airline news for you as well. In fact, we've got all the latest airline news for you. So there's been so much going on as, the world just continues to open up. And so we've done a bit of a roundup for you. And it's some of them are actually connections that have never occurred before, like Qantas's first flight from Brisbane to Vanuatu. So there are 3 new flights a week here, and from mid-December, Jetstar is also going to offer up to 4 weekly flights between Sydney and Port Vila. So that's, opening up that space in the South Pacific.
And from next year, Qantas is adding direct flights 3 times a week from Melbourne to Honolulu. But that does come as Jetstar stops its twice weekly flights between those destinations. But Jetstar, it's not all bad news. Jetstar has actually announced a heap of other new routes though. So it recently launched a 3rd new service between Perth and Asia. So after Perth to Singapore and Perth to Phuket, it's now going to fly 4 times a week between Perth and Bangkok. And it's also launched its first Adelaide to Whitsunday service, which will operate 3 days a week. We've got every city in Australia covered here, people.
Yeah, right. Well, I think Adelaide deserves that. Staying in the South Pacific, from October, New Caledonian airline Air Carlin is also adding seasonal services until March. It's doubling its Brisbane-Noumea return flights to twice weekly. And Sydney has 2 new flights per week on Tuesdays and Fridays, and operating 1 weekly return on Sundays between Auckland and Noumea. And another one that's very close to my heart is Turkish Airlines. It'll be flying its first service to Sydney from Istanbul in December. This is the first non-stop route from Sydney to Istanbul, because before that, I think you had to go through KL usually. The Melbourne-Istanbul route launched earlier this year. And a few months ago, the first flight was announced between Australia and Palau. So Nauru Airlines is now flying direct between Brisbane and Palau with a 6-hour flight on Wednesdays.
Gosh, so many flights to choose from there, aren't there? And so great to see all these new routes opening up. So another piece of interesting flight news that came about that, it's not really new, but it's certainly taking off.
No, I see what you did there.
Is that reclining seats are increasingly disappearing from economy on airlines. I just thought this was really interesting. So earlier this year, the New York Post ran a piece at which they said that sardine can airplane seating could soon become the norm, as flight experts claim that the reclining seat could be scrapped from economy. And amid soaring concerns over space, fuel costs, and in-flight kerfuffles.
Love a good in-flight kerfuffle. Well, I was reading the traveller section in the Sydney Morning Herald, which also recently ran a great story by Michael Gubicki saying Finnair's Air Lounge now has a unique non-reclining seat back for its lie-flat business class. And it points out that seats aboard Ryanair have not reclined since 2004, and nor do seats on EasyJet, the German low-cost carrier Condor, Spain's Vueling, and US budget airline Spirit, which cops a lot of flack too. Can I just point out, Ryanair has done a lot of stunts. Remember each year they come up with ideas where they just float them saying, we're going to charge people to go to the toilet, or we're going to have standing only, you don't sit, you just stand up for the entire flight. God, they love it. And sometimes it is just to get a few column inches, and he's very successful like that. But then sometimes they are looking at the trend. So non-reclining seats. Are you a recliner, Kirsty?
I don't recline on short-haul flights, and I personally think it's a bit rude to do that. But because I've had some shocking situations where people throw back the seat and almost crack my laptop in half, which is on the tray table behind them. But on a long haul flight, I think it is acceptable. Again, I don't tend to throw the seat back very much. I just do it a little bit. I'm always a bit nervous about putting the seat back too much. Because, I just do it enough so that you're on a bit of a slope to help you sleep without your neck sort of falling into your chest, that type of thing. What about you?
Oh, no, well, I don't recline on short domestic flights, but I'm all about sleeping on long haul. But I do it by stealth, so little by little, so they don't notice that I'm going back. But if the person behind me has already reclined, then it's like, dude, I've got carte blanche to recline too, right? So I will often make eye contact with them to let them know I'm going to drop my seat back, because I've had the laptop crackers in front of me too, and it's no fun. Next time, I'm going to nick their shoes and hide them. You're listening to The World Awaits. Subscribe through our website at theworldawaits.au.
This week, I chat to entrepreneur Alvaro Cerezo, who launched the first company in the world to specialise in holidays to undiscovered islands. Do Castaway drops willing tourists on deserted islands in the most remote corners of the globe, and you might be surprised to hear why most want to do it. Welcome to the show, Alvaro.
Hello, how are you?
It's so great to have you on The World Awaits. Thanks for being with us. Let's start by tell us a bit about how your fascination with isolated islands started, because I believe it was at quite a young age.
Yeah, it was when I was only 8 years old. I think everything started when I was having a holiday with my parents in southern Spain, and it's an area where there's many secluded coves, many hidden beaches, and I used to escape from my parents and try to go by myself by any floating device like inflatable raft or whatever, and used to be alone on these remote hidden beaches for just a few minutes or 20 minutes. It was far away, and used to come back home. Every day was a new adventure, going to different secluded coves, and it was a very strong feeling. And that's what made me desire to go to a real desert island since then. It was my dream, no? And this is what I did when I became a teenager.
So tell us a bit about your background and how you got into travel.
The background, actually, I study economics. Has nothing to do with what I'm doing now. But yeah, it was kind of a hobby. Since I was 18, I started to go to a new desert island every summer, every holiday. I was lucky enough to have my brother is flight attendant, so I didn't need to pay for flights. So I could travel anytime. And people were wondering, how could I do that every summer, sometimes 3 times per year? Every time I got a holiday, Christmas holiday or Easter holiday, I used to go to a new desert island in different locations in the world. Because if you think about it, you don't need to pay for being on a desert island. Everything is for free there. Of course, they were not really the best islands. I didn't rent the island. I just went to any island where there was no people. Sometimes they kicked me out when there was an owner. But surviving on an island, I didn't need to pay much. I just needed the money for the fishermen to drop me there, which it wasn't not very expensive, $100 for 2 ways. And the flights I didn't need to pay because, as I told you, it was already for free because of my brother. So yeah, I spent all my teenager time, all my university time, it was on desert islands.
So what was the point when you actually thought, hey, I'm going to start a business out of this?
Everything. When I became 18, it was the beginning of internet. Now I'm 43. It was the beginning of Google, not internet. It was Google. When I first searched, because I was afraid to go to a desert island by myself, I wanted someone to help me to do that. I didn't have enough information, and now it was in that time there was no Lonely Planet. There was not much information about places, and especially desert islands, and no many forums talking about that. So I wanted a company to help me on that, and I was really surprised to see that there was no one offering this kind of service. So this is when I I was so surprised, no? Like, I'm sure, no, there must be people like me, but I have no choice to do it by myself. So I went to this remote desert islands in India and Andaman Islands. And as I explained before, it became a new hobby. I was going to a new desert island every time I had some free time. So I was surprised that when I finished my university, of course, I didn't want to work in an office after having this wonderful life on the islands. And I didn't see myself having a normal job, working in the bank. So by chance, I checked in internet, there still wasn't this company offering this kind of service. Bearing in mind that most of my friends were really wishing to do something like that. Like, oh my God, I would love you to bring me one day to one of these islands. And everyone was really impressed about this kind of trip, but there was no company offering this kind of service. Even this was 2008. So then I decided to do it by myself. Yeah, I decided to create a company, and I thought maybe there would be other people like me.
And so what happened then? How did you choose islands to include? And tell us a bit about what your experiences are about, because you're not just taking people to any islands, you're taking people to, how do you qualify what is a deserted island?
Yeah, the first desert islands I used to go when I was teenager, when I was going by myself, honestly, they are islands I would never offer nowadays. They were islands, I was very lost. I was just going to a remote archipelago and asking any fisherman if they can drop me there. I didn't have much information about the island. The islands that we offer nowadays in Castaway are pretty remote and pretty isolated. We make sure there's no fishermen, no people visiting the island. Unlike the islands I was when I was a teenager. These islands when I was teenager, they were beautiful, they were nice. I was very happy, but of course there were many fishermen coming. Almost every day or every 2 days there was fishermen coming, landing on the island. I was interacting with them, so feeling of isolation was no extreme. I didn't care because I pay very little, so I didn't mind. It was kind of nice company to have local fishermen. It was a good way to interact with local people. But of course, our clients want to be completely alone. So we definitely make a selection of the best islands so you don't see anyone and you don't need to interact with anyone. That is what we offer, not being alone.
How do you find these islands?
Finding the islands is not the problem. It's just by... nowadays, I got a sixth sense. I know the island is going to more or less work, but it's not about finding the island. It's about making them work and making them isolated, making them private, making sure fishermen learn this island is not available for them. They are protected. What I do now, for example, is to try to make conservation area in these remote islands. When I find a beautiful island that it can be suitable, I try to protect them. I try to make a conservation area so and no one is allowed to reach the island. So in this way, we can make it private and we can make sure that fishermen don't go there. That is our biggest concern. Fishermen are everywhere. Nowadays, you even go to the most remote island on the planet, you can see a fisherman maybe once a week or once a month. Of course, our islands are not that remote because otherwise it would be too expensive for our clients, and it will be require too much time to reach them. So therefore, we try to offer islands that they are not that far from the mainland, because otherwise it will be too expensive for our clients. But we need to make sure the fishermen know that they cannot reach even close. So that is our challenge.
And how do you go about ensuring that these islands are designated conservation areas? Because does that mean that you have to work with the local authorities?
Yeah, of course, we need to work with the local authorities and offer them the possibility that we are going to promote tourism, but it's going to be sustainable tourism, and we are going to protect the coral reef. No one is allowed to fish with nets, or they cannot approach. So somehow we make islands preserve So there's some areas, some islands in the area where you can have at least a coral reef which is untouched, and fauna can recover. Because this is one of the main problems in Southeast Asia. This overfishing there, and sometimes they use this bomb fishing and cyanide. Like they use methods which are really horrible, and they destroy the coral. They anchor the coral. Boats are anchoring and using nets and bombs. So we somehow create a marine reserve on these islands. At the same time, it's good because our clients can stay there alone.
Yeah.
Only one client. I mean, we don't mix clients. It's only one castaway or a couple. I mean, let's say it's like an island is your hotel. You have an island for yourself. You decide whether you go with your wife or your husband or your friends or alone. Most of the people go alone.
And so let's cover off a bit of that. So what happens? So you drop people off there, like you drop them off there by boat or however you get them there. They fly to the mainland, then you take them by boat, and then what happens? Do they have a tent?
It depends on the island, and it depends how they want to face the experience. We don't push them to. We can recommend, but you can even bring your own food, and you can bring tent. And we have the equipment. You don't need to bring. We bring for you. I mean, we provide all the equipment as much as you want. But of course, people want survival. It depends. There are islands there for comfort. There are islands where there is already a bungalow, a cottage, even a kitchen. This is comfort mode islands for people who doesn't want to survive. They don't want to survive. They don't want to suffer. They are on holiday. They just want to be alone, and they want to be in a remote area feeling isolated. So for them, we also have we got islands for them as well. If you want to survive, we recommend you to go with nothing, or just with a machete. But you can just try to go with nothing, and if you cannot survive, we can bring you new tools, or we can bring you a pizza. We can bring you our team to teach you how to continue the experience. But the main idea is to be alone. You can face the experience as you like.
Yeah, and have you found that post-pandemic people are increasingly wanting this type of experience? Has that increased because of the fact that or is it increased because of the fact that a lot of tourist areas are becoming overcrowded, or what are you finding the reasons are that your business is continuing to grow?
After pandemic, has been pros and cons. There has been one of the biggest problems is flights are more expensive nowadays. It has increased recently, less, but especially after pandemic, it was crazy expensive. So people were traveling less, that remote places. But at the same time, people are willing to go to more exclusive places because traveling nowadays is not that cool anymore. I mean, everyone can travel, in the first world, people want to do something more original, more extreme, more beyond the limits, or beyond what no one has done it before, So, definitely there are more people. And also there are more, we have found that more people are willing to, because of social media and Instagram, they want to show the experiences. It's also, social media definitely has increased more the demand on these remote places. Sometimes it's for showing. It's a pity, I mean, I must say that before pandemic, our clients were more authentic. Now there's more people just for the Instagram.
So they don't genuinely want time on their own. They just want to show off with.
Yeah, honestly, before I thought it was more. I mean, there's still very authentic clients as well, But I find more people who are more there just for showing.
So tell us some of in your opinion, what are some of the islands that best epitomize what you're trying to achieve? So what are some of the places that people can go that are really remote, and give them that experience where they won't have any interactions with anybody else?
We got islands that are very remote, very, very remote, but of course it's less demanded because they are very expensive. The more remote, the more expensive. And especially the more time you need to reach them. So our clients, they don't want to go that far. I mean, in the beginning of To Castaway, I was exploring extremely remote islands in the Pacific, in Oceania, even in Australia. I was searching for islands. I found out that, try and error. The company was new in 2008, and I didn't know what was the real demand. And honestly, people, they just want to be on an island, and they don't care whether it's in Australia or in Asia. If they will be in Europe, it's even better. Or in America or in the Caribbean. The closer, the better. People don't have that amount of time because you need to realize they need to reach not only to the country, they need to reach to the remote area and then to the remote island. So you need at least 2 nights, 3 nights on the transportation. The closest islands that we got, maybe 2 nights. In 2 nights, you can be on your island. And if someone has normally 15 days holiday, 10 days holiday, it's not really worth. They spend more time in transportation than going to the island. But of course, we got islands very remote for these people who has the opportunity and the money to go. Yeah, and we have in Tonga, in Polynesia, in very remote places. Yeah, of course, we use them less. The most common island that we use are in Indonesia and Philippines, and it's just maybe 20 kilometers away from the mainland. That's enough to get enough isolation and no fishermen around. Yeah.
What are some specific examples of some islands that people can go to that will give them that really remote experience?
There is no island in the world that hasn't been touched by humans, except islands that they are created new by volcanoes, underwater volcanoes. That sometimes it is very rare, no? But we were lucky to have one island like that. We were the first humans to live in this island and stay on this island because it was a brand new island, just pop up from the ocean, in the middle of the ocean in Tonga, and it created a mountain of ash, and it's still there. It's dissolving back into the ocean, no? But this is a new island. This is the way remote volcanic islands are created in the Pacific. So unless it's an island which is just created, every island has been touched by humans. So you don't go. The islands that we normally go, they have a name already by local people because they belong to a country. But we give fake names because we try to protect our islands as secret. This is something that you need to be taking consider. You should know it's quite special from our company. We keep our island secret, so we protect them from mass tourism. If we start posting videos with the island and the photos of the island and the location of the island, there might be backpackers that they will reach there, they will want to do by themselves. It's not a problem. The island is private, but it will destroy the feeling of isolation of our client. Even if we can kick them out, because the island is private and is protected, we have already destroyed the feeling of isolation of our castaways, So that's very important for us to keep them secret.
Even though people are posting social media about them when they're there. So
but no, they're not allowed to disclose their location, and they can share it only with friends, but publicly it's not allowed. They need to sign a disclaimer about confidential information about the island. They are allowed to share with the friends and the family is not a problem, but they are not allowed to publish in the YouTube channel that they got and to mass spread the information about the island. That is not allowed. We don't allow. We allow them to share with the friends. Yeah.
So without naming the actual name of the island, whereabouts, which locations are some of the islands that sort of best give people or that people are seeking, seem to be the most popular? As in people wanting isolation, but the islands that, that seem to be generating the most interest of people wanting to go to have that isolation.
Yeah. Let's say now we got an island called Juanito Island. You need to know that we are changing islands all the time. This very dynamic company. As soon as an island gets polluted, by tourists or by fishermen or by government gets greedy because sometimes they see an opportunity. Oh, this island is getting very popular, and they start being a little bit greedy or thinking that this is a business and making a hotel or whatever. We move to another island and we try to go more remote. So we don't get a big commitment with the islands. Islands are suitable as long they still untouched and pristine and secluded. If they become problematic, we just move. So we have a list of many desert islands, but we are changing this list in the past 10 years. We have completely different. I don't think we keep almost 2 or 3 islands we keep from the beginning, from the one we started. So nowadays is one called Juanito Island, which is working quite well because it's cheap, it's easy to reach, it offers very, very good isolation. The team is working amazing. The local team, because we need to train the people there. They're working very well, and clients are happy. So we promote the islands are working the best. Yeah.
And where is that island?
In Indonesia.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what sort of people are seeking this type of experience? Is there a certain demographic, or is it what sort of people are looking for that?
Honestly, it's really I cannot tell. We got from all age. It's true that the older they are, the less survival they search, they look for. The older they are, they look for comfort mode. It's very rare to see someone in the 20s asking for comfort mode. They work for survival, for sure. After the 30s, 40s, they are choosing more survival. The most common is solo males. We got also solo females, but much less. And they don't suit in every desert island. We got islands that they are suitable for solo girls because we need they need protection. No, for solo girls we try to monitor, to somehow protect that no one comes to the island because we are a little bit more concerned about her safety. Couples is also common, but let's say solo males is in the 30s, 40, in the 25, 30, 35, 40. That is the most common profile. Countries, US, surprisingly, Dutch people. Bearing in mind for such a small country, I think for the most amount of clients per capita, I think it's Holland, Netherlands. Because of the size of the country, we got plenty of many Dutch people, despite it's a small country. Yeah, Swiss as well. We got many. British and French, Spanish, Italian, but they are big countries, no? Of course, Americans, Canadians, Australian. We got quite a lot as well.
Australians are pretty adventurous. Yeah. Oh, look, it's been really interesting learning about your unique business, and it must be fascinating discovering new islands. And I'm sure there are just so many islands, so it's not like you ever have a shortage of islands. But
yeah, many.
So we end each interview on this question: what's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to you in your travels?
Happening maybe the time I was with one time we reached to an island that it was supposed to be perfect for our castaways. I was convinced it was just perfect. I invested, I prepared the team, I talked to the owner, I did everything to already talk to the police to make it protected and all. And when we reached to the island, there was a family of monkeys. They kicked us out. I wasn't even able to land on the beach. They were showing me their teeth and attacking the boat. We couldn't even land on the island, so we had to abort. They were very aggressive and really protective. We got this Ian Stewart, who is a millionaire. Who is very eccentric. He's not afraid to die. and he was always wanted to be the first to try a new desert island. So we used him as a guinea pig. So wherever we got a new island, he was testing the island. No, we use sometimes clients like that. No, clients who maybe they want a discount or they don't have so much money. We offer them to test the island for the first time. No, so they tell us the feedback. So this special client was not afraid to die, and when I was in Tonga, that story about the volcano, he wanted to be the first. I called him and say, "And would you like to be the first human on being in this brand new island, but it's still hot from the ash? You know, it's very dangerous. And scientists say don't go to this island because they can dissolve back into the ocean at any time." But he was like immediately he took a flight he was living in Thailand and went to Tonga straight away and jumped into that island and spent 10 days there. It was quite a fascinating story.
Wow.
Yeah. There are many clients. Yeah. The clients they're asking for unique things sometimes. Yeah.
Look, it's just been so great talking to you, Alvaro, and thank you so much for your time. And we will put all the links in the show notes to where people can reach out and book a trip with you to go on an isolated island.
I love that concept of just being dropped on a deserted island. And how funny to hear, though, that most people are going for social media content rather than the isolation. If you want to learn more about Alvaro's adventure to be the envy of all your friends, or at least just to tune out, go to docastaway.com. Our tip this week is about how to best take care of yourself when you travel. Maybe not all the things here you can apply if you've been dropped onto a deserted island, but there are definitely some takeouts for that too.
So Andrea Powers of Founding Diva says, make sure you sleep, relax and eat well before your flight. No brainers really. So you go into the trip rested and with a positive mindset. And if you get a massage, you can also get a massage the day before, get some exercise and don't drink alcohol. And it will make all the difference. I'm actually a bit of a nerd in this way, I have to say. And I do all those things, except the massage. I don't get the massage, but I do exercise and don't drink the night before because, I like to go into traveling fresh.
Yeah, I actually, one of the best flights I ever did, I was in Korea and I'd had a sauna literally like about 3 hours before the flight. Oh, and I got on the flight and I slept like a baby. But apart from that, I can't say I'm quite as disciplined, with the alcohol or also my strategy to get on the flight. So this is my strategy, Kirsty. Get on the flight absolutely exhausted. So I just pass out for the entire journey. So I don't use sleeping tablets, but I do take an eye mask and I've usually got noise-cancelling earbuds and then I'm out for the count. So, that's my plan. I think being well-rested, getting on a flight, and then people say to me, I can never sleep on flights. You just had 8 hours sleep. How are you going to then sleep on the flight? To me, that is counterintuitive, but it doesn't work for everybody. So if you're not a sleeper, like I can sleep on my feet, Andrea also suggests taking some herbal tea bags on the plane with you. They will provide hot water on board. This, of course, if you're flying in business, you're probably going to get them. But if you're in economy, maybe not. But, she says just to keep everything moving on the inside and bring an empty water bottle so you can fill it up over and over again, of course, without adding to the horrific amount of single-use plastics in flights. And it goes without saying that you should try to get as much sleep as possible so that you are ready to power on when you hit your destination. So pack an eye mask, load your favorite music on your phone. Especially if they don't have good music on the in-flight entertainment, and it also helps block out the cabin noise. And on arrival, if you have a time change, don't sleep if it's daylight. Get out and try to acclimatize to the local climate and also the local time. Get some fresh air and get the blood pumping around your body by taking a good walk. Or I actually love to swim. As soon as I get off a flight, I'm straight into my swimmers and in the pool. And the key thing here, research has said in the past, is to expose yourself to the sun to set your biorhythms to the new destination. So I reckon we should probably go into that a bit more in depth for another episode down the track. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And I always try and do that too. Although I don't agree with being exhausted on a flight. That does never work for me.
Okay, that's only my strategy. I am not a doctor. I am not a
Look,
doctor.
you've got to do whatever works, right? And that works for you. And it does work for you. And you're always hitting the ground running and doing a great job. So whatever works. It just doesn't, unfortunately, work for me. She also says to stay active during your journey. So running and or walking before the day starts is a no-brainer, a great way to enjoy your surroundings before they get busy and check in with the locals. And, of course, it's free. Or you can use online workouts. So loads of them are free. I actually have a few saved. I actually got, when the pandemic hit, I had quite a few from my gym. They were just loading up these free, and I've saved them all and I still use them all. And they're so great because they're like, weight workouts that you can just do anywhere, and you don't necessarily always have to have weights. You can use anything. But and just some little hit sort of workouts that you can do. So I do actually think that's a great idea. And most hotels obviously also have good gyms and great equipment, so there's no excuse there. I have to say the best gym equipment I use would have to be in the middle of the North Sea on the way to Norway on a cruise when I was doing a little spin class of my own, looking out at the ocean. That was pretty remarkable.
Yeah, nice. And the last hotel I stayed in Vietnam in the Mekong Delta was a really sprawling one, and so they had bikes everywhere. So you just grab a bike and you ride it around to, because your villa might be like 5 minutes or 10 minutes walk away. So you just jumped on a bike and just zinged around the place. So I took it out for a bit of a spin as well. And it's equally important to take some time out, because if you are constantly rushing from one place to another, which is sometimes what we do when we're working as well, then exercising everywhere, there's no time to make time for what Andrea calls mind fitness. So you could download an app like Headspace, or you can just stop and make sure you listen to the birds or the surf and, be in the place that is not your normal place. You've gone on holiday for a reason to experience that. So Andrea says it's important to take time for yourself. And, often we are doing what family members want us to do, rushing around after kids, after your partner. Sometimes you just got to say no to them all and go have a nap or hit the pool.
Yeah, not for me though. I'm not a poolside sort of person. I'd rather be out biking or hiking. But it's a good point. And maybe rather than laying by a pool or a nap, after I've been out and about doing something, I just think go for a great meal and an Aperol spritz.
Hit me with the spritz. Next week, I'm going to take you to the moon and back. Well, sort of. My guest, Marnie Ogg, is going to tell us all about astrotourism. She is the founder of the Australasian Dark Sky Alliance, which educates people about light pollution, but she also designs and leads stargazing tours. So we'll be talking about the best places on Earth to go stargazing, a little bit of aurora hunting, and spotting all kinds of celestial bodies. So stay tuned for next week's episode. It's going to be a cracker.
Yeah, that sounds so interesting. And we also love ratings and reviews, so please help us out on Apple Podcasts. Click on our profile and scroll down to the bottom to ratings and reviews and hit those 5 stars. And if you're on Spotify, go to our main page and click the 3 dots under our photo, or simply you can just drop us a line and let us know what you think about the podcast at hello@theworldawaits.au.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirsty?
I'm at Kirsty Wrights on Instagram. That's Kirstie Wrights, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.